nuance in tech, pop culture, and what have you since 2017. Hey, you there. Do you have faith? Do you have faith in this thing that we call humanity? This thing that flies around like so many lights. And we see a man helping an old lady cross the street, laden with her bags, all the way to her house does he go, carrying things. And what does he ask in return? Nothing at all. And then we see on another street an old lady carrying the bags of an old man or a young man. And she doesn't ask anything in return. And when she goes home, she dies alone, but she knows that the last thing she did was an act of kindness that humanity doesn't generally see. And then you go to DPReview and there's some comment or there's some article about Sony. It says something like, Sony show profits and no one else does. And then some idiot by the name of Shigzeo, he posts something like, I would love to be in the Sony camp if only their cameras were comfortable to hold. Who comes out? The apologist for Sony, the apologist for design. Yeah, believe it or not. Somebody designed it and they're a professional, therefore it's good. Have you ever seen a bad design in your life? We all live in perfect bubbles. The lights just flicker around us and here and there, every photograph is a beautiful photograph. Every corner of the house is not only free of cobwebs, it couldn't ever have cobwebs because the design is so perfect. We never see a bad looking car or a seat buckle that doesn't properly fasten because everything was performed and designed by a professional. And there's no such thing as a bad professional. As you know, every wedding photographer is amazing. No one else could do what they do. No one else could do better than what they do. No one can match up because they are a professional. The only person that can match up maybe is another professional, but there isn't one professional that's better than another. And you know what? If you're gonna ever say something about a camera or perhaps a wedding photograph, you had also better be a camera designer or a wedding photographer. Because if you're not speaking from a position of expertise, you are speaking from a position of ignorance. If the designer's goal is to dye a shirt red and he opens up his veins and lets out all his blood into a bathtub and then soaks his shirt in his blood and then dyes, he will have definitely completed his goal. His design is perfect. But was it a good design? Ignorance, 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 ignorance. Like the young man that helped the old woman carry her stuff home, only to be slashed in the throat by the old woman and her husband, who then committed a suicide pact. They subverted his expectations. My car, a Suzuki Every, was designed by a professional. And yet, it doesn't go into gear 1 very easily. And it doesn't go into reverse. And it had a recall. And when you put the coffee in the coffee shaker, it spills. In fact, I call it a coffee shaker because it's a cup holder, but it doesn't hold cups. They bounce out. And guess what? They were designed by a professional. Nothing can be wrong if it's done by a designer and it has to be perfect. There's not a better design. The Sony grip is the perfect grip. It doesn't matter. If your fingers get caught in between the grip and the lens mount, that's your fault. Your fingers are either fat or you're not holding it the right way. Steve Jobs would be so proud of that argument. Even though the camera is shaped in a certain way and you expect it to be used that way. No, with a Sony you don't wrap your fingers around the grip as you do with other cameras as you would be expected to because it's a grip that looks to be used that way. No. You place your fingers gently on the top, and then you just kind of brush them around, because otherwise they get caught between the lens mount and the lens. And you that are annoyed by that, or that notice that, are the problem. The design is perfect. And yet, I wonder, if Sony came out with a design that was more akin to something like a Canon, or even a Nikon, or a Panasonic, and it had a really great grip and the spacing was perfect, what would the Sony apologist then say? You can give me what I want. And give it to me now. It's perfect. And you would be like, but it was different just a month ago. And they would be like, but this is the iteration on perfection. This is the ultimate version 2. It always gets better because it's designed by a professional. Those other brands, that may have had the same design or something similar and been just as good for years, they're not the right ones. No.